Apologize right now, or you're fired, my boss said, sliding a written statement across the table. Read it, sign it, say it. I looked at the accusation. Then, the door handle turned. My name is Hannah Brooks. I'm 34 years old. I work as a senior project coordinator at a mid-sized logistics company. I'm the person who fixes schedules when they fall apart, catches billing errors before they become disasters, and stays late when product launches go sideways. I'm not flashy. I don't network at golf outings or industry mixers. I don't participate in office gossip. I just do the work. I keep things running. I grew up in a family where speaking up meant being labeled difficult or ungrateful, so at work, I learned to keep my head down. I delivered results. I stayed professional. I didn't make waves. My boss, Richard, liked control. He liked taking credit even more. For 2 years, I covered his mistakes quietly because I thought it protected the team and kept projects on track. I wasn't rich or glamorous or connected to anyone important, but I had something they didn't expect. I kept records. Every email, every revision request, every approval chain. I documented everything because that's just how I work. I'm detail-oriented by nature, and that habit was about to save my career. If you've ever been pressured to take the blame for something you didn't do just to keep the peace, please hit subscribe. Drop your story in the comments if you've been there. Click like or hype before we continue because we need to talk about what happens when you finally stop staying quiet. It started 3 weeks ago when a major shipment to our biggest client got delayed because of incorrect routing codes. The client was furious. The delay cost them thousands in missed delivery windows. And somehow, within hours, my boss, Richard, was standing in front of upper management telling them that the error came from my department. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't review the documentation. He just pointed the finger and walked away clean. An emergency meeting was called the next morning. HR was present, Richard was there, 2 department heads I barely knew sat at the end of the conference table. The room smelled like burnt coffee and stress. Richard stood at the head of the table and presented a printed apology statement. My name was at the top. He slid it across to me. "If you don't take responsibility," he said calmly, "we'll have to reconsider your position here." I looked at the paper. It was a full admission of fault. I was supposed to read it aloud in front of everyone, then sign it, then accept whatever consequences they decided. I took a breath and asked as calmly as I could, "Can we review the approval chain first? I'd like to understand exactly what happened before I sign anything." Richard's jaw tightened. "Don't make this worse, Hannah. Just apologize so we can move forward." The HR representative shifted uncomfortably in her seat, but said nothing. I was told very clearly that I had 2 options: apologize in writing and verbally right now, or lose my job. The tension in the room was suffocating. I could feel everyone staring at me. And then, just as Richard opened his mouth to say something else, the door handle turned. Someone was coming in. But the damage had already started before that meeting even happened. The first betrayal came the same day as the client complaint. Richard sent a company-wide email summarizing the issue. He never mentioned his own involvement. Instead, he wrote that the error originated in project coordination and that steps were being taken to address accountability. My name wasn't mentioned directly, but everyone knew I ran project coordination. By the next morning, people were looking at me differently. The second betrayal was quieter, but just as painful. Coworkers stopped including me in key meetings. Calendar invites I used to receive automatically just stopped coming. I'd hear about decisions secondhand. I was being quietly sidelined, erased from projects I'd been managing for months. Nobody said anything to my face, but the message was clear. I was being pushed out. The third betrayal came 2 weeks later during what was supposed to be a routine performance review. My rating had suddenly downgraded. The report cited poor accountability and failure to maintain quality standards. None of it was true, but it was now part of my official record. I sat in that review meeting and felt completely isolated. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I didn't make a scene. I just thanked them for their time and left. But I didn't go home and give up. I went back to my desk and started pulling files. I logged into our project management software and reviewed every entry from the past 6 months. I pulled reports, I checked timestamps, and that's when I found it. The routing change that caused the shipment delay had been approved at 10:42 on a Friday night, under Richard's credentials, not mine. I took screenshots of everything. I downloaded the approval chains with timestamps intact. I saved Slack message threads where I'd explicitly warned Richard about potential routing issues, and he told me to stop overthinking things. I didn't confront him. I didn't forward the evidence to anyone yet. Instead, I did something smarter. I requested a formal review meeting with senior leadership. I submitted the request through official channels. I stayed calm, I stayed quiet, and I waited. What Richard didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that I'd been archiving every single project update for 2 years. It wasn't paranoia, it was just habit. I am a project coordinator. Documentation is literally my job. I had screenshots of the exact moment the routing change was approved in the system. I had the metadata showing Richard's user ID and timestamp. I had Slack messages where Richard had overrode lie warnings about the routing plan. I'd written, "This configuration might cause delays with the Northern Distribution Hub." He'd responded, "We don't have time for maybes. Approve it and move on." I had the original version of the client logistics plan before it was altered without my input. I had email threads showing I'd flagged potential issues in writing and been told to stop creating problems. I wasn't preparing to argue or get emotional or beg for my job back. I was preparing to present facts. I had organized everything into a single folder on my desktop labeled simply Timeline. It was chronological, it was clear, it was undeniable. And I'd sent a copy to someone I trusted before that final meeting even started. The person I reached out to was Linda Matthews. She used to be the regional director before she moved to corporate consulting. She'd mentored me 5 years ago when I first joined the company. She was smart, ethical, and she didn't tolerate people who threw others under the bus to save themselves. I called her on a Tuesday night and explained what was happening. I shared my documentation. She looked through everything and then gave me advice I'll never forget. "Don't go into that meeting emotional," she said. "Don't argue, don't defend, just present the facts through the proper channels. Submit everything to compliance first. Let the system work." So that's exactly what I did. I filed a formal complaint with compliance 2 days before the executive review meeting. I attached the full timeline, every screenshot, every message thread. I kept a copy for myself. Meanwhile, Richard was growing more confident by the day. He told other managers that I'd probably resign before the meeting. He told someone in accounting that I'd fold under pressure. He even scheduled the leadership meeting himself, fully expecting me to show up, read his apology, and disappear quietly. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The executive meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning at 9. I arrived 15 minutes early with a printed copy of my timeline in a folder. The conference room was on the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished table, expensive chairs. Department heads were already seated. Richard sat at the head of the table, looking calm and in control. HR was there again. And then, unexpectedly, the CEO walked in. Nobody had mentioned he'd be attending. Richard's face flickered with surprise, but he recovered quickly. The CEO sat down without explanation. Richard cleared his throat and began. Thank you all for being here. As you know, we've been dealing with a significant client issue. I've called this meeting to address team accountability and ensure we're moving forward with clarity. He was about to continue when the CEO held up one hand. Before we proceed, I need to address something. Compliance flagged an issue this morning. There was a pause. Then the CEO's assistant walked in and distributed printed documents around the table. It was the approval chain, time-stamped, highlighted. The CEO looked directly at Richard. Who authorized this routing change at 10:42 p.m. on March 17th? Silence. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Richard stammered, "I'd have to review the records." The CEO slid another page across the table. "I already did. Your credentials, your approval." Then he turned to me. "Ms. Brooks, did you raise concerns about this change?" I spoke calmly. "Yes, I raised concerns in writing. They're in your packets." The CEO flipped through the printed materials. He found the Slack message where Richard had dismissed my warning. He read it aloud. The entire room heard it. The apology letter was still sitting in front of me, unsigned, unread. The CEO turned to Richard. His voice was steady but cold. "We don't force employees to accept blame for management errors." The power in the room shifted instantly. Richard's confident posture collapsed. A formal internal investigation was launched that afternoon. Richard was placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the review. My performance record was corrected, and the downgraded review was removed from my file. Colleagues who'd been avoiding me started reaching out again, apologizing quietly, asking if I was okay. I appreciated it, but I also knew how quickly people's loyalty could shift. I didn't celebrate, I didn't gloat, I didn't post about it or talk about it outside of work. I just went back to my desk and quietly updated my resume anyway. Because even though I'd been vindicated, I'd learned something important. Loyalty in corporate environments is conditional. Documentation is permanent. I wasn't angry, I was just clear-eyed. The reflection I kept coming back to was simple. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is leverage when it's backed by truth. I hadn't screamed or argued or made threats. I just kept records. And when the moment came, I let the facts speak for themselves. That's the kind of power nobody can take from you. Did someone ever try to make you take the fall for their mistake? Did a boss or coworker throw you under the bus to protect themselves? Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to stay connected to people who refuse to carry blame that isn't theirs. Click hype to help the story reach others who need to hear it. You're not alone in this. Did the story hit home? Let me know by liking the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Click hype to help this story find others who felt the same way. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you for being here.